Okay, what's up everyone? This is Hutchison from High School Top 200, and this is the last position for the top 5 players in each position, and so this is the fullback one. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't seen all the other ones, go back and have a look at from props all the way to fullbacks, and let me know what your top 5s are and what you think of my top 5 selections and who you would also have as well in yours if you think I'm wrong, and please back it up with some kind of explanation of why. Also like and subscribe and comment and share and all that kind of stuff. Tell people about it. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't know about First 15 Rugby, that want to know and that want to see where players have come from and where they're from and all that kind of stuff. People always used to talk about how watching NPC was sort of like the grassroots kind of level because you knew where everyone was from. It's like, yeah, until you know what First 15 Rugby is all about, then you're pretty much going to know that a lot of guys that go to different areas are not from that area. So this is probably one of the most purest places that you could probably get information of where a guy is actually from. Because even like when guys shift schools, I'll tell you actually where they're from. If they're not actually from that area, or if they've received, if they've gotten a scholarship that they have accepted, I'll also give you that kind of information as well. But this one now is the top 5 fullbacks in the country that I feel have been the strongest. And I judged it on pretty much everything they did, from attacking to kicking to, defense and all that kind of stuff. Nothing really outrageous. Kind of the way that they share the ball, I kind of looked at that as well in a way that what they did when, was the ball kicked down to them and, all that kind of stuff. Even how they injected themselves into the line was also kind of what I based it off too, because, I guess the way that they do it to how it actually works out is also another thing, because obviously these guys are some of the best in the country. So even when they inject themselves into the line, sometimes it's not the right choice, but just out of pure talent and ability and, who your defense is just like, well, they just got away with it, but it wasn't the right decision. That kind of situation. So that's another thing that I sort of based it off too. And then how they made other people around them better was another one that I looked at. So starting from my top 5 fullbacks, this is who I've got. I've got, at number 1, Peyton Spencer from Hamilton Boys High School. He's a Year 12 student. Chicago Doyle from King's College. At number 2, Tama Anderson from Mags, or Mount Albert Grammar School. At number 3, I've got Afa Morlili from Napier Boys High School, and then I've got Isaac Hutchison from St. Bede's College at number 5. So this is the first, this is the second player that's a Year 12, and he's the number 1 ranked. And the reason why I picked Peyton Spencer, me explaining it to you is one thing, but if you just watch this game, you wouldn't really have to ask me why, because it's pretty obvious. And just the way that he attacks, and he's really tall, and I think he's kind of like, he's like Ruben Love and also Geordie Barrett, and those kind of guys that are excellent cricket players as well as rugby players. So he's one of those that has to sort of make his decision on what he wants to do. But in terms of rugby and at fullback, his first position is not even fullback; it's actually first 5. And that's one of the decisions that they're going to have to make with him next year at Hamilton Boys, is whether they leave him at fullback and have another first 5 come in, because I know that there's another kid coming through that they're really excited about, who will be Year 12 next year, and they want to use, or they just move Peyton Spencer up, move the other guy to the back, and then sort of have that rotation coming through as well. Peyton is one of the better attackers, so strong. Even for a long, sort of rangy kind of player, he's really strong and can change directions really quick for a tall guy. When I seen him at the under 15 tournament, there was him and a kid named Tyrone Bird from Tyrod Bird from Hastings Boys, who were both tall, both lanky, both rangy kind of players, but had the same similar type of game. And so when those two went off against each other and sort of the attacking was similar, and then I thought that it was the level on which he played was why he was so outstanding. And then when I saw Peyton play at the beginning of this year, sort of right from the first game, he just started tearing up, and I thought, no, this kid's a bit different to everybody else. You know, he really knows how to, you know, get around the field and knows where his best attacking options are. He knows when to kick the ball, when to hold it, when to, you know, put himself in a position where he has to take the hit and, you know, give the pass, and, you know, all those kind of things. Really go under the high ball, all of that kind of stuff, and reads the field and the feel of the game really well. And so that's like one thing that I found was different about Peyton in the way that he played, was that he was really mindful of a lot of stuff that was around him and aware of where his opportunities were. And because when you play for someone like Hamilton Boys, you have to, what I've noticed is that you have to take those opportunities and then figure it out later. But if it presents itself to you, a lot of these attacking players from Hamilton Boys sort of have the green light to go when they see an opportunity, and then back their team that they'll be there to support them, and it almost pays off every single time. And that's the reason why I feel like the Hamilton Boys are so good, is that they let their players have the green light and have that confidence to attack when they feel like the attack is coming, and that everybody get behind that player. And if it doesn't work out, they find that solution to fix the problem, and then they just carry on, you know, as they're supposed to, as well as make sure that they keep a foundation of whatever their game plan is. And for players like Peyton Spencer, that kind of system works, and he just pretty much showed it this year with how many line breaks he made, how many runaway tries he had. I'll be pretty keen to see how many times he broke the line, and for how many meters after the line break, how much meters he made after the line break. Because I think that would be a pretty huge number at the end of the day. And so he's my number one player that I picked for fullbacks. My second one is Chicago Doyle from King's College. Chicago started the year off with a hurt arm, and, you know, he missed all of the preseason. I think he played one preseason, missed all of the preseason. Started in the beginning of the first 1A game, I think it was, and then or the second one. Played a bit of first five, went to fullback, and even though he's really good at first five, I actually think he is a fullback. I think he is a fullback. And the thing with Chicago that a lot of people kind of don't realize is that Chicago not only makes you miss, but he makes you miss in a way that sets himself up. Not just makes you miss for the crowd to go, whoa, like that. He'll make you miss to open up a space for himself. And most of the time, he's not. Most of the time, it looks like he's making guys miss and making sure he gets the spacing that he wants to give a pass to somebody else. It never looks like he creates it just for himself. He actually just looks like he creates for everybody else. And that's what I kind of liked about him. And when I watched him play, was that when he played, he just looked so unselfish. And when he needed to really step it up, for me, when I watched him, it was about stepping up and then getting somebody else in there. Not stepping up and making sure that he made the break, or he was the guy that was seen running down the sideline. It was more about him making sure that the team is running down the sideline. And that's what I really liked about Chicago. His kicking game as well, I didn't really see it that much in a way that it became a weapon, but it was more about this is what you do in those moments. And it's not like overly good or anything. Like he didn't he didn't have like an exceptional kick game down the field. It wasn't overly huge either. So when it came down to it, his run game was really what it was. But when you're so talented like that kid is, sometimes you just kind of think, well, you don't really need a kick game. You don't really need that kind of stuff. I don't actually know, because I was kind of thinking about what game he fits better with, whether it's rugby or rugby league. And maybe rugby league at fullback maybe is the better option to go. And giving him that opportunity to play in that space and to play in that, more space on the field, but also with the opportunity to run the ball and not kick it away so many times. Because I feel like he can create for anybody and wherever you want on the field. I'm not too sure what his options are or what his offers are from New Zealand Rugby or from any other NRL club. But I mean, if I was an NRL club, I'd go after him hard out. And just try and see what I can get. And if I was like an overseas club, from like France or Japan or something like that, I would go for him, 100% go for him. Because he'll bring something way different to what they have over there. His game will be phenomenal. And I wouldn't even throw like a scholarship at him. I'll just throw money at him. That's just coming from me. Like, if I had to be in that position of a scout and a recruiter, I'll try and convince my bosses, like, no, let's just give this kid money. That's how much I feel like this kid can make it sort of anywhere. It's just like, people are going to look at it like, oh, well, that's not a way of teaching someone. It's like, well, if that's your kid, you tell me if you want a teaching moment in this position, if that was your kid. And it's like, no, don't worry about the money. Just give him a scholarship. Let's teach him something. It's like, no, give him the money because he's already trained and worked hard and all that kind of stuff now. That would be my position on it, is that I would just throw money at him and then, give him those options of going to school. But make sure that you lock him up because he is like a special player. He's a really special player that you need on your team. And that's how I kind of seen him this year for King's College. To me, that they struggled without him. They struggled sometimes to find not just attack, but even direction in a way. It usually just stopped at Francis. And even though they had Ali and Mikel on the wing, I still felt like they it's kind of stopped at Francis, and it was like he was confused of how it should go if there wasn't that option of him of Chicago coming from filling in from the back. And so for me it was Chicago and what he did, and so that's why I put him as my number 2 player. Tama Anderson's my third one. I don't know because the last game I saw of him against Kings, he got injured. It looked like it was his hip. I wasn't too sure, but it looked really bad. So I don't know how serious it is, and if but it kind of looked like one of those season-ending kind of injuries. I hope not, because with rep rugby coming up, I really hope we get to see him in those situations with those players as well. But to me, Tama was just so smart. Like, Tama was the smartest guy on that Mags team. I kind of felt like he should have been put at first 5. I don't know why. Like, whenever I watched him, I always felt like the ball should go through his hands early in that, and when the ball comes through. Like, he should have a touch of it every second time the ball came through, and give him that ability to choose what he wants to do for his backline. I didn't like the way that he was left out of some of these plays and some of these movements. He wasn't even used as a decoy. And this is just what I've seen. And like, he wasn't used as a decoy. He wasn't used as a decision maker or playmaker. But whenever he did touch the ball, he would just make a difference. Like, I'm not talking make a difference like he broke the line every single time he touched the ball, but he was a threat every single time. And he's like one of those guys that you just kind of keep an eye on all the time. But once he touches the ball, the alarms go off and be like, oh shoot, we better tackle him before he starts getting on a run. If we don't tackle him now or cut off his running lanes and stuff, he's going to make us pay for it. So like, I always thought about it in that way. It's just like, well, I don't want Tama to run. That was always the first thing, is that I didn't want him to run. I didn't want to touch the ball. Him not getting the ball through Mags, and I don't know if this is what they plan to do, but I always saw it as, why aren't we making him the threat every single time? I don't know what their game plan was, but that's always what I thought was, why isn't he touching the ball every second time it goes through every phase? Like, phase, touch the ball. Even if he passes it, next phase, touches the ball again. Whether it's a pass, whether he takes it in, whether it's a skip pass, whether it's a kick, I thought he should always touch the ball and made sure that everyone knew that he was going to touch the ball. So that let them make the decision on whether we move up fast on him, whether we sort of pressure him to give the ball away or pressure him to run. It's like, as a defense, I say, well, let's make him make the decision. You know, like things like that is just like, well, when he's standing out there and he's, you know, out near the center sometimes or in the back and the ball seems to be running through the forwards when they're not really making any ground, I was thinking, well, you know, what are you going to do with that? You know, how is you having a superstar out there not really touching the ball? How does that help our team? You know, and I'm not talking about rep rugby. I'm talking about just your normal first 15 team. Like rep rugby, it's okay because everyone's good. Like you can give everyone their time and peace with the ball, but when you're in first 15 rugby and he's your superstar player, he's the one you should go through. Stuff everybody else. That's the way I think. It's like stuff everyone else. Let's work around him. Let's build the game plan around him. Not build the game plan around, we'll make sure this works and make sure this works, make sure this works. No, let's just make sure he's around the ball somewhere so that everyone kind of forgets what's happening in front of them and just watches where he moves. And making sure that he talks a lot. Like, I would want Tama to talk a lot and directing, even if it's like fake directing, at least if he says something, your team as a defense is going, wait, what did he just say? And then try and sort of cut it off because you know that if he gets it, he's going to destroy you kind of situation. So that's what I was hoping that would come from someone like Tama. And even now when it comes to reps, I still want to see where they put him in the Blues, how they use him in the Blues, and if he makes it to New Zealand secondary schools or to New Zealand Barbarians. I want to see how they, you know, put him in situations there as well. And, you know, just things like that, and just seeing what they other guys do with him and see how other guys see his worth and value in a team. Afamolele from Napier Boys is the other one. I don't know whether he was a better first five or a better fullback or even like a halfback because he used to play halfback for a little bit. He's just talented. He's just so talented you could kind of put him anywhere. I don't even know where club rugby next year, where they would see him as a best asset for. But for me, I just put him in the fullbacks because I just think as a guy that is a good runner, that is explosive and that has great footwork and that is really creative in his playmaking, I kind of like think about it like if I had Jeremiah Asi and Jericho York and then I had someone like Afa, I wouldn't even bother with him, to be honest. I would just be like, bro, whatever you come up with in those situations, I'll just trust what you're doing. Whether you want to kick it, whether you want to give it, whether you want them to come and wrap around you, whether you want to sort of draw and pass to one of those guys. I was just like, I'll just leave it to you. I trust whatever your decision is going to be. And so that's how I kind of thought of it with Afa because, you know, his footwork and his explosiveness off it. And he's like one of those guys that doesn't just use footwork for nothing just to look cool. It is guided and directed to something. And so that's why he's not one of those kind of play around guys just for the oohs and ahs from people. Like, he'll do something with it. You know, even whether it's like a little chip kick or a little, a little chip kick or grubber, like keeping the ball low, low across the top and having good wingers chase after them. That's what I like seeing from a guy like him. And a guy in terms of value, like he'll add so much value to your team regardless of where you put him. You know, like if there is an injury at halfback and first five, I'll be like, yeah, we'll just move Afa because Afa can do it. At least I trust that I know that he's going to move to that position and be solid. You know, it's all good. Isaac Hutchison, who's a young year 13, he's another one as well. Had a little bit of an injury, but he come back. He's solid. You know, does everything that you want to do. Very safe player. Very good defensively. Runs really, really well. Kicking accuracy is great and kicking downfield and always got this plan and his communication from the back in terms of defensive side of things. I think that he directs better than anyone defensively on this side of it in terms of these top five fullbacks. Guys from fullback, I like the guys that talk a lot. I like the guys that make sure they tell their second five to move. He's coming from this way. If he comes this way, come over here. If he does this, come this way. You know, I'm going to drop back if this happens. You come back with me. You take the space. Like, I like guys that talk like that to their players, because to me, it's a reassurance that I know what he's talking about, that he knows what he's talking about, and he knows what he's seeing, and he's so confident in the way that happens. Making sure that everyone knows what they're doing in situations is what I like fullbacks to say when they're out on the field. A fullback that goes quiet is a fullback that I get worried about. Now, if you're a fullback that doesn't talk, because that's not in your nature, make that your nature on the field. Because no one likes a fullback that doesn't talk. Because then your second five and your centre is going to turn around, or your winger is going to go, hey, what are we doing? If he has to ask, what are we doing? Then you're not talking enough. Go to open side. I don't know. Go to open side or blind side, where you just do your work and don't say anything and just whatever. But if you're a fullback, start talking. And I'm not saying just say anything random. Think of the situation that you're in. Direct the guys that you want to, that need to come with you or go with you, or, you know, need to back you up or whatever. That's the kind of guy that Isaac Hutchison was. And I think that that's the way that a fullback should play, is the way that he did it. And so that's why I had him in my top five. And a lot of the times that's why that team this year was so good. You know, St. Bede's was such a good side, was because of the way that he was as a player. Having guys like Mason Allison, having guys like Ben Donovan, having guys like Cam Rawlings, like those kind of guys. Jake Wright was there. Jake Wright. He was another one, you know. Having, what's his name, Shadrock there too. Like, guys like that is like what you want around. And when you have a guy like Isaac Hutchison behind you, making sure that everyone knows what their role is, it changes the game a lot. And I always appreciated that whenever I watched their games this year. You know, I wish I watched all of their games. I really did. I wish I watched all of their games. Because we as fans could appreciate a guy who plays that way. And I wish everyone could kind of see it. So the guys that missed out. So that was my top five. Peyton Spencer from Hamilton Boys, who's year 12. Chicago Doyle, who's King's College. Tama Anderson from Mags. Afamolili from Napier Boys High School. And then Isaac Hutchison, who's from St. Bede's and is a young year 13. PJ USA from Sacred Heart College was one that missed out, who I think is going to be a really good sevens player. I'm keen to see what he does in sevens. Tomiyapuno is another one from Rotorua Boys, who also plays first five, but I think he's a better fullback. But I think he's going to league. I already think he's got a league contract ready for him. I think. Jade Stewart's another one from St. Kennigan's, who's going down. Obviously, we saw the Crusaders, and so he's going down to Crusaders. Jacob Waikati Jones from Wellington College is another one that I really liked at fullback. And I thought that the safety of having someone like him at the back was a big reason why Wellington was so good. Jaden Wilson from St. Paul's Collegiate is another guy that I thought was just such a solid player, and the way that he did things. I also liked Liam Day from New Plymouth Boys High School, and also Kobe Joe Vulu was another one too that I liked from Silverstream, from St. Pat's Silverstream. Year 12 that you could probably have to watch out for next year, and there's quite a few of them. Francis Metric from St. Pat's College Town is one that I like a lot. Him and Maraki Omua is probably another one. Maraki Omua is another one. King Maxwell is another one from Gisborne Boys High School who I like. And he just does all the hard stuff, you know, not really a complainer or anything kind of like that. Sammy Penny Otukolo was probably another one. Otukolo is probably another one from De La Salle who I really like a lot, who moves from first five to second five. From first five to fullback, but I'm wondering if they're going to use him at fullback. I'm not too sure, but he's another one. Regan Arson is another one from Matamata College. He's probably another guy that everyone should watch out for, and just to see what he does and how he develops over the year. What's his name? Eliza Campbell I think that's how you say his name, from Selwyn Schools Combined. He's another one too. And then Bryson Crawford, Pakoti is another one from Hastings Boys High School is probably another one you should. So all those guys are year 12, guys that you should probably watch out for next year. And just to see where they end up and land, because, you know, that could be a really, really, really talented group of fullbacks coming back next year, and it's going to be interesting. And those are all the ones that I like as year 12s, and there's still a lot of young year 13s that may return. I don't know if they are. I usually just wait for the next year to see what's happening with them. But that's the top 5 fullbacks. I'm going to let you guys know what I'm going to do next with all of this and explain why in the Monday morning meeting. And so hopefully it becomes clear with everybody why, you know, what my ideas for, you know, this next round of, I guess, rep games. You know, rep games and all this talent that we have in New Zealand, but nothing, you know, we don't have anything, you know, to do with it. Like, they don't know what to do with it. So I'm going to let you know my thoughts, but those are my top 5s, finishing up now with the fullbacks. Hirsch from peace.